into it. So when we talk about our students in out-of-district placements, we've seen a reduction in the students. So we went from 18 to 16 over the last 2 years. We have a couple graduations that we didn't reflect in here because we're not sure the kids will make it if they're in an out-of-district program. But we are reducing and bringing kids back, which is good. We've made a couple new programs, our 12-1-1. We have a 3-4-5 and a K-1-2 that seem to keep kids in district. And that's what our goal is to keep them in the less restrictive environment that we can offer them. So I think it's been a good plan. Do we have some more work to do? Yeah. Can we bring some more kids back? Yeah, but we have to be ready for those programs. And I know a couple of people have asked me about some therapeutic programs, and I said, we're not ready. It takes a year to make a really strong program and have the right people in place. And I think with everything happening with Indian Point, with us talking about what do we need for our kids, we need to go slow and steady. So this is probably something that's not going to even think about for a couple of years. So our grade bands are different this year. We're seeing a little reduction from 1920 to 2021. K-5 is an estimate because you never know who hasn't been in pre-K. So we find kids that we don't know that come to us in pre-K with no skills. And not that we classify them, but we really watch them. And that sometimes puts our K rate up a little. But we're estimating it's a small pre-K a CPSE load. So we're just estimating one section next year, which is a small bit. So we were able to drop 10 kids, 6 to 8. Again, it's dropping. Our largest group is going to the high school. But we also have a large group graduating from high school too. So that really helps us out. We have an estimated of 326 versus the 338 last year. However, we had 41 kids move in into special ed. 13 of them enrolled with IEPs. That was as of 122. Since 122, I've had 6 more students move in with IEPs. So we're not seeing the slowdown. We have people coming to us and saying, what do you have for us? We have students that are homeless from other districts that we enroll, and then we bill that district, which is good for us, but it also is an uproot of the student from their home, so that transition is sometimes difficult. So my budget summary looks a little different this year. We really tried to keep everything flat. The first 4 lines, of course, are salaries of teachers, aides, assistants, secretaries, and administrative. Now, my budget looks different than most people because I hold all salaries in my budget. And I believe that's part of because we get state aid on my people because of the special ed piece of it. But it's also there in my budget. One of the largest that we talked about was the teacher salaries, 6.26% increase. That's because budget to budget in 1920, we had to hire another 1.5 teachers based on the kids that moved in. We had a large 4th grade expand. Like, it came out of nowhere. We didn't even expect it. And in that, we had to hire another half-time teacher. Then we had to hire a teacher here. So it's all based on student needs, but it's the needs of the IEP. So those are things that I can't always plan for. I try to have an extra person in my budget, whether I need them or not. And if we don't fill it, great. That's a little bit of money back to the district. However, sometimes we do have to cushion that a little bit because we do have families move in. Especially when they move in at the end of August. Like, all of a sudden we're scrambling because we have 12 kids in that class now. We can't add any more kids. We need to either write a variance. You can't start a school with a variance. So there's a lot of indicators that go with that. Most of my codes, the rest of them, have all stayed 0. And some have actually dropped with contractual expenditures and other tuition to public schools. We do have a student graduating, so that drops $80,000 right there. The increases at BOCES is an overall 2%. That's a hard thing not to adjust. We have students that we cannot serve here at school that they need those specialized programs. They could be wheelchair bound, they could be multiply disabled, that we don't have a program for. And there also comes with our related services, it comes all the services that they need, OT, PT, speech, and well as sometimes we don't have, we need a bilingual, so we have to call BOCES, so that's where all that stuff comes through. So those are our incidentals. They go up 2% whether we like it or not. That's just what BOCES does. Transportation went up 4%. Again, it's all the runs that we have that go out of districts, as well as our kids in-house that may need a specialized transportation. They may need a bus. They may need a monitor on the bus. So all of that has to then go into that code. So overall, my budget went up 3.16%, and that was, the best we could do. We really have to watch, and we'll see what happens when we make our decision for 21, 22, is what will those teacher salaries, because that is my biggest increase. And, you know, we've got a plan, but how do you plan for kids you don't know that are coming? These are our grants. Again, these are estimated, so we have our 619 and 611. Most of that money goes to salaries, so Enrique offsets salaries by using it for those that can fall under there. We also have to pay SEDCAR, which is a fee on top of our out-of-districts, so they come out of that funds too. So we try to use that fund as much as we can. This year in staff, we got $116,979. We have a little increase next year, but again, that's estimates based on what Questar could give me as far as our stack.
And just for those who don't know the acronym.
Oh, so it's for basically out-of-district students that cost us more than $65,000 a year. We get more funding back on them. So say we have a kid in a program, it's $80,000. They have an LPN and they have and their program is $90,000 and the LPN is $30,000. Each kid gets money back on that, which is nice. It becomes a nice next year kind of thing. You don't get it here and now. Enrique will see it probably in September or March. Depending on the years, they have 2 disbursements.
And the board may remember a number of years ago, we worked with BOCES out of Albany to do an audit of our stacking to make sure we were getting all of the aid back possible, whether it was transportation or programs or services. So over the last number of years, Lisa meets with those folks and they share the file, they share the data to make sure that we're receiving everything we're eligible for from the state education department.
And then our ABC, ICT, and special class. So this year, the 1920 is $986,000 and change. I'm going to tell you it's more than that. Enrique and I are working with a district that is not paying their bill right now, and they have 3 students with us. So that's well over $1 million. We were conservative for 2021, and I have a feeling right now I have 6 intakes I'm doing for next year. So you figure if each kid is about $60,000, there's another $300,000, you know, so it adds up. So it really is, we have become a district that people want to come to for special ed services. We've changed the K-5, which has made a huge difference in our numbers. We actually just, the Westchester Parenting Magazine just did an article on us. It'll be out next month talking about our new ICT roles. So people are hearing. I just got something from Wappingers today. I've never had a kid from Wappingers, so it's interesting. So it's nice to hear that we're being acknowledged for the special ed programs that we have, but we also have to make sure that we're still continuing to build and to become the best. So this is just what our 611, 619 look like. So the support staff salary that pays my secretary for CPSE for 619, purchase services or whatever we need to pay for. We're giving a calculation for our kids in a full day program or kids that just get related services. So $39,000 is about what we're paying for CPSE. And the 611 is all of our all of our salaries that our staff. So we really have offset $541,000 in salaries. We do purchase service, so that might be it might be a person from Carbone coming in, it might be a professional development, it might be something that we need for a classroom that we could get out of the grant so we don't have to tap the budget for it. And I just estimate that we will probably be about the same. I think this year we went up about $2,000. We didn't go up a lot. So those are 2 great sources for funding special ed, so we're really appreciative of it, but it does cover quite a few salaries. So we really are talking about a lot of different initiatives. The elementary, they came a couple weeks ago, talked about executive functioning. That's up and running in the elementaries. We are actually doing, and I know it's further down, Margaret and I have teamed up together yet again to bring executive functioning training here because it's not impacting just special ed kids. It impacts all kids and maybe some adults. That we have trouble with those executive functioning and getting to where we need to be. I know sometimes I feel that way. But we're actually going to host the training here, which was much cheaper, and do a lot of programming within the schools. John Owens and I met today to talk about how we could implement it in the middle school. What would it look like? What would it sound like? Who would do it? The high school already has a class. I think there's 25 kids enrolled in that class, and more are added as the semesters go. So that's great. Blue Mountain Middle School, we have brought in GNR for ICT training. So our consultant teacher model really needed a lot of work. We haven't put a lot of money into the middle school. This year we put a lot of money into the middle school. So on top of doing this, I'm helping them fund some special ed classrooms so they're flexible. So we have better teaching stations. We can do some parallel teaching. We can do some station teaching. So John has really put a lot of effort into that, and so has the whole middle school faculty. They've been amazing. Every teacher was trained. That is a content area teacher was trained. And next year we'll have some coaching brought into the school district just to continue all of that work. High school, again, we had the executive functioning. Next year, our older sailor kids, 18 to 21, we're gonna, 19 to 21, we are gonna have what we call ETP. It's through OPWDD. I'm giving you a lot of acronyms. So it's the Employment Training Program through the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities. They will actually pay the kids to work half a day or how many hours a week. It does not impact their Medicaid or their Social Security. And we will work with them and train them for vocational out in the community. Those are only for the last 2 years of your high school career that they can have this opportunity. So we have 4 kids that will be eligible for it next year. We're also bringing in an agency that we thought would be in here in January, but they're not going to start until March. They're going to come in and help us set up work-based learning for our for our alternately assessed kids, and help us find places in the community to place them in order to do some job coaching, job skills. They'll do all this and work with our staff and train our staff to move them forward. And eventually, our staff will do all of it. So it's all that learning process before we get to the end. And then in the high school, again, we really need to work a little bit on our self-contained classes, our 15-1s, getting some resources for them and how to make it a little bit more rigorous, how to work with students, set up your environment. So we're bringing in the same people that work with our ABC classes will be working with our self-contained classes next year. Questions? Talked as quickly as I could.
Thank you, Lisa.